Hello. Are we live?
Yep. We're good.
Facebook, can you tell us if we're live? and no, better yet, can you tell us if you can hear us? Bolchka, do we have levels? Is somebody even saying anything? Okay, look at. So you guys gave me endless grief for having to wear readers on the Stages podcast during the tour, but in the ones I had were awful, and I just bought them down at the local pharmacy. But a sweet lady named Mary, she's with this reader company called I Need You. They sent me, I got boxes of readers, and so these are, JB, this is what I came up with. I thought these were pretty dope. What do you think?
Much more stylish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
nice job.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, before we go live or before we start recording the actual podcast, my day got completely screwed up. I mean, here's how stupid I am. I was looking forward to starting the day, and I was gonna go pre-ride stage 3 of the Colorado Classic, which is the stage that starts and finishes in Denver and goes out around some climb. I forget the name of it. But so I'm kitted up, I'm loaded up, I got everything. I walk out to the car. The last thing I need to put on are my shoes. I'm looking everywhere. I got no bike shoes. We're in Denver. The bike shoes are in Aspen. Idiot.
Which is why a lot of cyclists make a checklist. God.
And when I was
wipe off plastic checklist.
When I was pulling out of town yesterday, I said, I am forgetting something. But I'm pretty, I can't see it. And so it was my bike shoes. So
Have you ever done that at a very important race?
No. But I'm at a very different time in my life when it comes to, trying to remember helmets and shoes and pumps and water bottles,
Right.
So I just kind of basically just screwed off all day. Didn't even play golf. I didn't do shit. Watched a bike race. All right, let's start this podcast. One more thing I should say. I have my readers, I got my computer, and a fresh Lancerita. All right, welcome back to the Stages podcast. My buddy JB Hager. Here we are at the Infinite Monkey Theorem right here in Rhino District, the Rhino District of Denver River North. Not far from the start-finish for stages 3 and 4 of the Colorado Classic. I feel, JB, I don't know about you, but I feel the energy building here.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just from a completely different vibe from yesterday. I can see part of the course out the window of the angle that I'm facing. All the big trucks are here. They've been dropping all my favorite things, the barriers, have been going up like crazy. Yeah. There goes a team right by. I think it was one of the women's teams. They're going to be racing a crit tonight. Yep. And the streets are closing off, and, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of this race, we saw today in both the men's and women's race 2 unbelievable rides. I mean, the performances of Sarah Poitevin and TJ Eisenhart were, I hate the word epic, although I probably use it way too much. They were incredible rides. Sarah wins the bike race by 2 minutes. Hello.
That's huge.
That's the different bike race. Right. And then TJ, this kid, 23-year-old kid, originally from Utah, racing for Georgine Cappy's Holowesko Citadel team. And I'm going to read a quote later in the podcast, but this kid clearly has zero fucks given. I mean,
out on the attack all day.
It goes from literally the gun. And you're watching this going, this is going to end really badly for him, or we're about to see what is potentially the next big star in American cycling.
We weren't even sure what to think as we were watching him because he just looked so calm and stoic, and his head's propped way back.
No, he's the anti-Froome.
His
head is up.
Right. He just didn't look like he was suffering. And, it reminds me of when the Tour de France first started, and people were like, where are the Americans? Where are the Americans? What's the state of American cycling? This is a name to watch.
And this is not a name we mentioned.
No.
But clearly, obviously, for the fans that watched, and again, it was another day of intermittent coverage and storms and spotty satellite coverage or spotty just NBC coverage, which the weather, nothing they could do. But what we did catch, here's a kid who I mean, I have a lot of empathy for him because when I first came into this sport, I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go on the first lap. And you just try to hang on. And oftentimes, almost all the time, you can't. You just can't hang on. And he managed, and with, I think, some good help from Thomas Craven and George Hincapie to pull him back a little bit, he managed to pace himself, quote unquote, a little bit. And lo and behold, he didn't get caught until, think about this, he got caught at the top of the last time of the final climb,
which is so frustrating for.
If he gets caught at the bottom, if he gets caught at the bottom, this is a totally different story.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about it anymore.
Yeah, for the average fan, that's so frustrating. There's always this underdog thing, you know, when it's a new name and someone goes out there and they're aggressive like that, and you don't know who they are. It's such a natural thing to pull for them, no matter who's chasing them, right? Yeah. So it was a bummer to see him get caught. But what does this mean to this kid professionally? Tour of Colorado, out on the attack all day, a tough stage, the Queen stage, lots of camera time, tons of camera time. What does that mean for him professionally?
Well, I think it's I don't know what it means for him professionally. I mean, certainly tonight he's buzzing. I mean, he not only did he stay out there all day and then get caught at the end, you know, might have thought he would have been shelled, dropped off the back. But he hung in there and then contested the sprint. He's feeling pretty good about himself right now, as should his team feel about themselves. I mean, by the way, this is a team, and I love this storyline. This is a team that won yesterday with their sprinter in Colorado Springs, and damn near basically won today, although technically not, but in the hearts and minds,
still had a great day.
In the eyes of people, they won. This is a team of, and maybe I know too much. This is a team with $1 million budget. George Hincapie's put together a team of young kids with $1 million budget, with the support of Mark Holowesco and Citadel Capital, $1 million, and they're racing with $20 million teams. So whether it's BMC, Trek, or Cannondale Drapac, I might be off by a mil or two, but these are big budgets, and these kids, they're like, we're here to play.
What do you credit that to? Somebody like George as a scout and working with talent over a certain amount of time? Is it tactical? Is it, you know, just striking gold?
It's all of the above. It's all of the above. You got to find these kids, you know, before, obviously, TJ Eisenhart is not making a ton of money, but he's 23 years old, so he probably shouldn't be, but he's a big talent. And so whoever finds him and develops him, he came from the BMC development team. So by the way, I mean, the $20 million team I was just talking about had a development team that let him go.
Yeah, that stings a lot, right?
In which I love this quote, and I read this 2 days ago on the eve of this race, and I texted George and I said, "Who is TJ Eisenhart?" Because here's his quotes. Get a load of this.
Were you grabbing these from Twitter or something?
On cyclingnews.com.
Okay.
Which it breaks my heart to read cyclingnews.com. But here I am. I'm reading it. Yeah, man, it's for sure a different vibe on Holowesco's Citadel, Eisenhart said when asked about his contrast between his 2016 training stint with BMC to his current Continental team. Quote, "We just go out there and, like, race it. It doesn't matter. We give it all, man. For me, man, I felt like on BMC I was kind of like a caterpillar. This is when it gets good. I felt like I was a caterpillar. I was just, like, following orders. I'm grateful for my time with BMC Racing, but this winter I felt like I turned into a butterfly."
The girls are swooning over this.
With the blonde locks and the necklace. I'm not done. Just being with this team has helped me a lot. With not being afraid to express who I am, just enjoying racing and just enjoying being blown away by the beauty of Mother Nature. Holowesco Citadel is pretty rad, man. It's all about free spirits. It's all about, like, having a good time and racing. It's just so cool, man, when you're happy to go out and rip it and have a good time. By the way, he ripped it today and have a good time. No matter what, if we won or lost, we still have a righteous after party. It's awesome, man. I mean, you can't make that shit up. That takes Taylor Phinney to a whole nother level.
He's a romantic. He's passionate, and he found. So let's turn it into the sport. He's an interesting guy, and people are gonna love this about him.
But he was the stones that he showed today.
Yeah,
dude.
But obviously, the team environment means a lot. Like,
no doubt.
I don't have no no hatred for BMC. They didn't see the talent in him.
Right. Well,
they did, or maybe over budget. How do they let this guy go?
We don't know, and we shouldn't speculate. But
he gets into the right environment and can really excel.
Of course.
And
vice versa.
Did that ever happen to you professionally, where a different environment and all of a sudden you're like, okay, let's go? Somebody, you know what I mean?
I tried to stay in one place as often and as long as I could, so I didn't change a lot. But I would love to be at that dinner table tonight. Yeah. They win stage one. They have the jersey. They own the bike race today. I mean, that's if you want to know who's having fun at dinner tonight, Team Holowesko Citadel.
I think a lot of people can relate to that quote from TJ, no matter what they do professionally.
Yep.
You feel maybe unappreciated, or you didn't renew or didn't get a new contract at a job. You go someplace new, and now does he have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, or is it just, he's got to enjoy it for a while. But
as long as we should stop talking about him.
We're making it worse.
That's the thing, is that's what happens in this country, whether it's from me trying to live up to Greg LeMond or other kids trying to live up to my generation, as messy as it was. We want to talk about them. We want to highlight them. We want to admire them. We want to applaud them. But with that, not everybody can take... Look, the kid, we spent 3 weeks talking about Adrian Costa, this kid, has endless potential. And then towards the end of the tour, I read that he's decided to take time away from bike racing. So what is it that in that kid's mind says, I can't take it, or I need a break, or I'm cracking, or I want to do something else, or my girlfriend's going out to college, whatever it is, so it takes a special, and then I tell you, layer in, look, they're in Breckenridge, Colorado today. They're going to be in Denver tomorrow. This doesn't suck. So at some point, they got to go live in Europe, be away from their family. It's a different language, a different time zone, a different food. Everything's different. So that's where the sport gets complicated.
Are you kind of saying enjoy the moment? Because the next step, as great as it was for this kid TJ today, the next step, let's say that is you're going over to Europe and you're going to get your teeth kicked in for a while.
Yeah,
very likely, right?
Or not.
I don't know. I'm just. What's it like at the big teams? I won't point out any big.
Well, Cannondale Drapac wins the stage, and so they're having fun at dinner. Mm-hmm. They were present in the race. Trek was present. I think,
Does it weigh heavily on a team that evening of a bad day, or in racing there's so much over a long season? Do you just block it out and hey, there's tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes and no. This is it just depends how that season. It depends how their spring classic campaign has gone. It depends how the tour went for them. It depends how this is going and how this leads into the Vuelta, and then that ultimately leads into the World Championships. It just depends.
This is you don't even have to throw out a number, but I think you have an idea. Because I think for many of the casual fans, you think if you're racing at that level, you're making a really good living. Mm-hmm. And there's the haves and the have-nots for sure, right? And I'm thinking again, what does this mean for a kid like TJ? Is it mean you might actually be able to make a good living on your next contract?
You can't get a more diverse salary discussion than we see today. So
give me a range, and let's not make it about TJ and a top rider.
We're not. TJ's, I don't know what he's making or not making, but look in this group today. You have 93 guys that started today. Here you have Rigoberto Urán, who's just got second in the Tour de France and is set to renew, or either renew with Cannondale or go somewhere else. He's going to make seven figures. I don't know if that's one or two. And then you have Team Rwanda. Team Rwanda is in the race. Mm-hmm. They were talking on the NBC because Paul Sherman was saying if he gets fined, there was something happening. If he gets fined, can he pay the fine?
Yeah.
So that is very different.
Yeah.
A $200 fine versus making a couple $1 million a year. So you don't get any more diverse and different and drastic than that.
I think it's very interesting for all of us. So
that's like living in Venezuela.
In today's race, you could have someone who's can barely rent an apartment to someone who's living very, very, very well in the same race, trying to get the same results. Is that fair to say?
That's totally fair to say.
Where was Rigoberto today?
He was there. I mean, this race this could be people. Look, I watched the race. I found it very exciting.
I mean, let me back up on talking about Rigoberto Urán. Did people expect him to just blow out today? Like, we saw his acceleration in the Tour de France. He's a big name. He performed very well. Did he, it seems like a lot of us thought, oh, this guy could just creep away from everybody today. It's harder than everyone thinks.
Maybe, but I said it yesterday. I mean, if I'm him, I'd be back home just having a grande fiesta. Fiesta grande. But the dynamics of the race were different, and that's what's cool about this sport is that it's never predictable. It never.
Well, and as you brought up yesterday, a team can't take as much control with smaller team presence in a race like this as opposed to the Tour de France. When we were covering the Tour on stages, they were talking about downsizing the number of team members. Is this a good idea? Maybe is this what we need?
I'm not a fan of that idea, but I got to tell you something. If you would have put, and take the altitude out of it because it's really not fair, but just assume that everybody was on the same playing field altitude-wise. If you put on that circuit in Breckenridge, if you put a 200-man field from the Tour de France, as we saw 2 weeks ago, that field with all the favorites, all the players, all the personnel, all the contenders, it would have been complete man. It would have been crazy. I mean, think about how that would have been. They don't do that just for the average listener or the person who's new to the sport. What we saw today was a circuit race. Like typically, well, not typically. The Tour de France is always point to point. Always point to point. So you start in Dallas and you end up in Waco. Or you start in Paris and you end up in Lille. So it's always that way. Today they literally were going, there were big circles, but they went in circles. They never, ever, ever do that in the Tour de France. Imagine if they did. Take that field with the best riders in the world, with all on the line, and go have a world championship-esque event, stage, in the middle of the Tour. That shit would be off the hook.
You're advocating for it.
Because I'm
cool?
advocating for it because I loved the race today. It. By the way, the crowds in Breck on the climb, Moonstone. I mean, amazing. Hats off to them for coming out. I'm advocating for that. Totally. Imagine the crowds if you did that at the Tour. In Chambéry, a world famous world championship circuit. If you went down to Chambéry and did that during the Tour, here we are at a time in our sport where we're trying to figure out what's exciting and what's keeps the race interesting, what makes it dynamic, what builds drama. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
What was it like in comparison? When you watch the Tour de France, it tends to be there's a couple of big climbs and then there's a big summit, right? Where it's a long grind up. It's a long grind. And in these circuits, it's up, down, up, down. Oh, you saw that all day.
Yep.
What's the difference like? Mentally, physically?
Well, you obviously it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you have to. And I say pace myself just because that's people understand that better than saying it any other way. You do get recovery and relief on the downhill. Now, these are not. It's not like you're going down a gondola and sitting there with your feet up.
Right.
Got somebody's rubbing your leg. You have to. You also
Right.
have to navigate. These were tricky downhills too. They were going, according to the coverage, they were going upwards of 50 miles an hour. By the way, I don't want to get off this podcast until I talk about this new fucking downhill style these guys have sitting on the top tube. I can't.
You kind of called that when but we talked about how when you were seeing it in the Tour, Froome started doing it. It's going to trickle down. Everyone's going to be doing it.
Here's the thing. The only thing I want to say, and I want to get into it more about the pros. if you are a Cat 3 in Oklahoma City, do not do that. That's an order. It's like I go ride.
They should maybe even ban it.
Let's ban something else. They tried to ban this podcast. When I ride every day, and I think, you know what? Every day I think, let me try it, and I start to get like about to do it, and I'm like, no, I don't have the ball to do that. And so
it's again, to the amateur rider racer, they're going to see that and mimic it.
And then these guys, and hats off to them, they can pull it off. But you're sitting on the top tube. They've taken it to the point where now they're leaning over the bars, head down. Not even. I'm like, if it just a little. The consequences are, and so what I want to know, and somebody will and should and will do this. Take that position in the wind tunnel. Show me that taking that kind of risk is that much faster. Because if it is, fine, take the risk. But if it's not, sit your ass in the seat and watch where you're going. Because mark my words, we will see a serious accident with this new jangle.
And for those of you trying it at home, like I would always do that in an amateur race. I would always think of it in a sprint. It's like, okay, is it worth it to me to go to work in a cast for the next number of months and in my arm in a sling?
Right, not be able to pick up your kids.
It's just not worth it.
My barometer is like, can I pick up my kids tonight? Yeah. Can I pick them up, grab them, hug them, wrestle with them? If I can't, then you know what? I don't want to do it.
Think about that before you do it, right?
I'm out.
Okay. We saw some other interesting stuff that we were observing, and it's great to have this epic race, and today proved to be great. We actually got to see it today. The weather cleared up. This is my first summer spending any time in Colorado, and talking to you and other locals, they're like, of course there's a storm every afternoon. Yeah. Like, it just seems like, duh. This is what we deal with. So when we're having the video, the pictures cutting in and out, to local Coloradans, they totally get this. That storms are an issue every day.
Right. So my message to this event, to the promoters of it, the owners of it, the investors in it, the sponsors of it, whatever, we know this happens. We have a lot of, you guys, the people right over, a block away setting up this incredible experience has a lot invested. And part of that is the TV experience. Forget standing on the street here in River North in Denver, but most people are in this country or around the world trying to watch it on TV, and you can't. And it's no fault to anybody other than Mother Nature, to quote the great T.J. Eisenhart. But
you're a fan now.
I'm a fan. I am a fan. And the fact that the necklace matched the sunglasses was just, this kid's the shit. But no, so it's a legitimate concern every afternoon in Colorado in August, or even in July and August. These storms build up, and when those storms build up, obviously it adds extra danger and risk for the athlete. But the satellite plane has to get out of position or has to land, and then it's unfortunate that you have a new event with a lot on the line, and the people that are in Minnesota can't watch it. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just something to think of. If I were an organizer and I saw that, if I knew that, I would move the event up. So everybody has to move up a couple hours just to ensure that our event that we put so much into can be broadcast to the world. We don't need to finish at 5 o'clock. This isn't who cares? I mean, we're not trying to cater to 1 billion viewers, but put it earlier in the day so that we can assure that all of these amazing feats, women and men, are broadcast to the world. By the way, too, why the hell are we not watching the women's race? I'm watching. Nicola Kramer is texting me and sending me little video clips from the finish line of the women's race. Like,
I assumed it was going to be part of the
package. No, we ought to be watching that.
I know there's women's crit going on in downtown Denver tonight, or not downtown, but right in this area. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
We talked about it a little bit. The women just need the stage. They need the stage to get the sponsors and grow it and make stars of them.
That's right.
As your analogy to women's tennis. If there's stars out there, it will grow.
Yep.
It will grow. It's odd that we didn't even mention the stage winner today.
Alex Howe's a local, not local, but a Colorado kid. He rode a tough race. You don't mention him because TJ was so impressive, and it was such. I mean, if you watch it was TJ.com. But yes, at the end there is a real bike race going on here. There is a real stage winner, and there are real time bonuses. And for by and large, this thing is probably over because tomorrow you suspect that you come back into Denver, even though there's a pretty good climb in the middle. You come back with a large group. The time bonuses get taken up, and so perhaps the GC, the general classification, the overall, has been decided.
You want to field some questions? And then we'll take us, or let's give us a sneak peek of tomorrow.
I would love to, but however,
not real sure.
Hang on a second. I'm just looking at this. So TJ Eisenhart he's in the lead. I hadn't even looked at the GC yet. Alex Howes is 1 second behind.
That makes it interesting.
That makes it super interesting. So,
those time bonuses.
That dinner table at Holowesco Citadel is pretty rocking. So that would be an amazing result for this young kid. I just kind of assumed Howes got enough time bonuses to pass him, but no, it's a close bike race. I would love to tell you more about the stage, but as I confessed on Facebook Live before we went live on this podcast, so I get kitted up today. I was all set. I was like, this is amazing. Because I know JB's going to ask me about tomorrow. So I said, I'm going to go out and ride the course.
That was the plan
for tomorrow. So I'm fully kitted. I got my wee-dooed out. I got all my shit. I'll go out to the car. I'm going to put my shoes on. There's no shoes in the car. I called Bolchka. I'm like, dude, where's the shoes? He's like, I texted you, said make sure you put your shoes in. I was like, oh, fuck. I don't have any bike shoes.
I offered you mine, but I know that's such a personal, dialed-in thing. It's just not even an option.
And I mean, this was the worst walk of shame of all time.
When you came back into the house,
I'm walking back in with my chamois on, and knowing that there was not going to be a bike ride, and all the tee times were full at the local courses, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do now?
So we're teaching people at home advice like don't sit on the top tube. Make a game day checklist before you leave the house. We've all done it. I've done it. You get to the race, you get to the event. I got no shoes, or I'm missing a helmet. You're borrowing things.
But fortunately, I have an amazing woman in my life who was driving down today to hang out and come see Wilco tonight. And she brought my bike shoes. So I'll go tomorrow. I can't tell you about it now, but tomorrow morning I'll be up bright and early, and we'll go out and ride the circuit and just give it a look-see. I suspect it's moderately hard, but not that hard. It'd be interesting. We talked about this young team. They got to defend the race now. It's their race to defend, and so how can they support that? And my sense is they can, but they're all thinking about it.
That 1 second gap will be fun.
1 second is 1 second. I mean, 1 second is nothing.
I know.
A split in the peloton just at the there's a lot of ways to lose a second.
Here's
before we get to questions, I just want to say something because the Amy D the people from the Amy D Foundation came by just before we went on air, and Amy Dombrowski I never met her, but I follow the sport enough to have read about her career and unfortunately her passing 3 years ago. She did it all. She raced mountain bikes, raced the road, raced cyclocross. She was living in Belgium for the cyclocross season and was hit on her bike in a training riding, and unfortunately passed away over there. But they're doing a killer job of supporting women's cycling. They have a team here in this race. They sort of pick up composite teams and make sure these women have a place to go during these races. It's called the Amy D Foundation. You can check it out at amydfoundation.org. They're also on Facebook and Twitter. But give it a look, and not to be confused, this is not any relative. I always thought she was related to Joe Dombrowski, but what a sweet. Her brother came by with his wife and their 2 kids, awfully cute kids. And so if you guys, hopefully you can see this here on the Mevo and on Facebook, but check out the Amy D Foundation, anything you can do for them, give them a little support. Just an awful story. It happens way too often. This run-in between cyclists and cars, and most of the time it's a bruise or a scrape or maybe something broken, but sometimes they lose their life, and Amy Dombrowski did, and we lost an amazing potential athlete in this country.
Some comments and questions, please feel free to send them in. Post them on Facebook as you're watching those. I go through them every day. Stages at wedosport.com. It's WEDU sport.com if you want to send any comments. Vince writes in, Lance, can I get a shout out for the Leadville 100?
This weekend.
Wish me some luck.
This weekend. I drove through the Leadville. I left Aspen yesterday and drove through, and man, the buzz. The buzz is building here in River North, outside of Denver, but the buzz in Leadville was cool to see. I've done Leadville twice, so big shout out, and not just to Vince and to your crew, but everybody competing. This thing is a hard bike race, 100 miles. The lowest elevation you're ever going to see all day. We talked about Breckenridge today being hard and the elevation, etc. They saw 10,000 at the top. Leadville, the town of Leadville, is 10,000.
Yeah,
think about that. Top, the highest they'll see is 12.4. So good luck to Vince and everybody else starting. I love it. Love that race.
Mario gives just a shout out from Gold Coast, Queensland.
Right on.
Wearing the Suffer tee.
Love it.
Right now.
Love it. Got the blue ones in now.
This made me laugh. Mike, there's a new bud out called Finney Sativa, if you haven't had it.
That doesn't. Why should that surprise anybody in this state? Why? Is that true?
No, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. It was very clever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for that comment. Let's see. Martin says, thanks, Lance and JB from Cape Town, South Africa.
Love it. Great. I mean, Cape Town. Have you been to Cape Town, JB?
No.
Let me tell you something. Run, don't walk. That Cape Town, South Africa, and I went down for the Argus, which is the biggest one-day bike ride in the world. 35,000+ people. It is insanity. And Cape Town is the most cosmopolitan, chic, cool. It is amazing. You think Miami's cool? You think, San Francisco, all these places are cool? Go to Cape Town. It is unbelievable. That was my son. We took Max down there, and that's where he first crawled. Well, I'll never forget Cape Town because the place we stayed, I'll never forget him actually crawling. And Anna and I were both just freaking out and crying, and that Max crawled. And Cape Town, A+.
Mike writes, with this being a smaller race than the Tour de France, what does it mean for the caliber of cyclists participating? And this is more specific. Do these guys train as hard? And what I think it means is, do they train the same? Do they train as hard as someone in the Tour de France? What makes it different? It's
completely different. And it goes right back to this discussion we had about salary. The team from Rwanda, I mean, this is their tour. This is their Super Bowl. This is the thing. I mean, maybe they have something at home, a national championship or the Tour of Rwanda, but this is the big stage for them. So they're training and making all the sacrifices that they have to get to the start line here as fit as they can be. Rigoberto Urano just got second on the tour. He's like, yeah, my team's American, the sponsor's American. They phone it in a little bit, which is fine too. Mm-hmm. It's fine. But no, there's big differences.
Okay. And I just feel like mentioning this tonight. I don't know if we're going to be able to catch part of it. I'm very interested in seeing part of it. There is a Fixie Crit,
of course,
going on here tonight, which, I don't know if everybody understands. And if you could break that down, for a lot of roadies use the Fixie as a training tool, but a lot of people associate Fixie with bike messengers and things like that. Explain to people why this is such an insanity. I think it's cool they're having it here as part of the event. But having ridden some Fixie, I don't think I would ever have the sack to mix it up with that.
You know those things when these idiots jump off mountains in these squirrel suits? These flying squirrel suits?
Right.
Okay? That's something you would never. Would you do that?
Never. No interest.
Neither would I.
Right.
Guess what? I would do that before I go ride a Fixie Crit. It's that fucking crazy. I mean, I'm out. Which means it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it is.
Yeah.
When I met with the Gart brothers are sort of the force behind this event. We met last March in Aspen about what they had going on. They mentioned that this part of Denver was going to literally be fenced off. I said, please tell me you're having a Red Hook Crit. Like, the Red Hook Crit in Brooklyn that is the Super Bowl of Fixie Crits.
Yeah.
And it is a scene and a party, and these athletes are amazing. I said, you have to drop a Red Hook Crit right here in Rhino, in River North. And so I'm psyched at the fact that they're doing it. It's, it's different. It's completely different than what you would have watched today.
And for those who don't know, you don't get to freewheel. If you've never been on one of these machines,
no, your bike,
you don't freewheel.
You don't have brakes.
I know.
Hello, brakes. Those things that front and rear, you don't got them.
You have, and you're in a Peloton,
right? When you were a kid, and your pedals wouldn't stop no matter how hard you tried.
Which most people never do that again once they get rid of their big wheel.
That's right. No, and that's what. So you put, 100 men or women on the start line, and super fit. So it's basically a track bike.
Yeah.
It is a track bike. You cannot freewheel. You can't stop. They know how to stop because they can skip that back wheel enough so that they can. Now there's no stopping like you would stop with regular brakes or disc brakes, but it's in big shout out to Colin Strickland from Austin, Texas, who's one of the best Fixie Crit guys in the world. I don't know if he's here tonight, but. It's a big scene, and I'm sure they'll have it lit up, and it'll be rocking. That's what. Again, this goes back to what we said for the last couple of weeks. Is this a new twist on this sport?
Yeah.
This idea of the best pro cyclists in the world, live music, Wilco, Death Cab, all these people. By the way, Ben Gibbard coming on the Forward podcast tomorrow. I can't be more excited. Throw in some Fixie Crits, throw in
the women's crit tonight.
Yeah, throw in beer and food and all this. I mean, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, that's good. It's progress, right? Well, cool. Send your comments. Post them on Facebook here. Send them to us via Twitter. We're going through those. Send it to stages@wedosport.com. All right, we want to get those and get them on the show tomorrow.
Yep. And finally, the biggest shout out of the day to JB Hager for buying me a fan. I was projectile sweating yesterday. This fucking Airstream. It was 120 in here, and I told you guys during the tour I run hot, and I'm like, no man, this
you're a lot happier today.
Yeah, this is good. And you guys at home, look, you don't hear it on the mic, so you hear this pin more than you hear that fan. So JB, thank you.
Hey, trying to keep it cool. I broke another window too, by the way.
No bears in Denver.
No bears in Denver, thank goodness. All right. Thanks again to Infinite Monkey Theorem.
That's right.
If you happen to be in Denver for this event over the weekend, come by. We got the Suffer tees that everyone's going so crazy about, the We Do gear, the We Do hats, tons of those. We'd love to see.
And I look out, just a small side note, I look out the window here, I see TJ Juskowitz, the race director from Ragbri. I mean, here you talk about a race promoting, ride promoting, icon. TJ standing, I have no idea why he's here, but I look out there and I see him. The last time I saw him, I was at Ragbri, and I was completely cross-eyed. I had so many Lanceritas, but holy shit, TJ's here. Come on down this weekend. Yeah. The energy is building, and we're looking forward to some racing.
Yep, we'll see it.